I'm going to start off by saying welcome everybody to the TribalP2Action first webinar. Actually, I'll hand it over to Shasta to get us going. But this is the introductory webinar and overview of the P2 assessments and planning process for tribal businesses.
Thanks, Josh. For those who don't know me, I am Shasta Gaughen. I am the environmental director for the Pala Band of Mission Indians in Southern California, in San Diego County to be specific. And I'm glad that you've been able to join us and hope that you will be able to stay with us through our whole series of webinars and roundtables, and then also share this opportunity with others who may not have heard about it. We got a little bit of a late start on advertising for this, so it would be really helpful if people could share this with their networks. But just the brief overview of the project, Josh and I started working together on the P2 project as part of an EPA grant, and that overseen by Jessica, so thank you, Jessica. And it involves doing analyses of some of Pala's tribal businesses and to assess their pollution prevention practices or lack thereof, and to try to find ways to reduce pollution and prevent pollution, of course, for the usual reasons, to keep things out of waterways and that kind of thing, but also just as an overall attempt to green our practices and green our facilities. And so that includes our money-making enterprises, so the casino and RV park, our skate park. Actually, there's really no P2 to do at the skate park unless you count skaters needing to take a shower every now and then, but we have a raceway for dirt bikes, and so there was a lot of opportunity for us to be able to reduce some of our pollution production through pollution prevention. And then we wanted to take the lessons that we have learned and be able to provide them to tribes throughout the nation. And that was where this webinar and roundtable series came from. And really, I've not been doing much of the work on this. I'm the overseer, I'm the project director. It's been Josh and his team who have really taken the reins on this. So he's going to be doing a lot of the talking here, and I'm just going to be listening. So Josh, go ahead.
Thank you, Shasta. So yeah, Shasta, and I appreciate the Pala Band taking the lead in initiative and really facilitating all of this. I mean, you know, we work together on a variety of projects, the Tribal Climate Health Project and other ones. And, you know, it's great that we have this partnership where we do direct work for Pala Band, but that Pala wants to help other tribes build capacity and resources in these areas to help them better handle pollution and other impacts, environmental impacts, and save money at the same time. So thank you, Shasta. I would like to introduce Jessica Counts-Arnold from the EPA. She's the project officer, and we've been working with, and I've worked with her on a few different P2 grants in the past, back when I was with the TUMASH, and now here as well. So Jessica, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Josh. As he said, I'm Jessica Counts-Arnold, and I am the Pollution Prevention Coordinator. And I've worked with Josh and also a number of other tribes on pollution prevention projects. And so I'm really excited about the work that Josh and team has been doing. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the activities that will be going forward. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Jessica. John Flores is also, he's not here today. He took a much needed vacation for this week, so we decided not to pull him away for that, just for this webinar, but he'll be on future webinars. But this is a collaboration also with the Pala Band of Mission Indians, and I'll talk more about the various partnerships and relationships and how that all works in just a moment. I am Josh Simmons with Prosper Sustainably, so we are the kind of lead consulting group that's leading the overall efforts. Working with us are both Michael Burr, the Microgrid Institute, who I work on a variety of projects with, particularly in the energy space and, as you might guess, in the area of microgrids. And then Scott Brown with Wood Environment Infrastructure Solutions, who have been really great to help us focus on the areas of hazardous substances and water. So Michael, first, you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for everybody for being here today. I really enjoy the opportunity and looking forward to this entire a series of webinars and roundtables. So as Josh mentioned, I'm the director of Microgrid Institute and also the principal consultant for Burr Energy LLC. I've been working with Prosper Sustainably for several years on a variety of tribal energy related projects, including microgrids, solar energy development, and environmental assessments. For the Intertribal Pollution Prevention Project, I'm helping out with some project management support, as well as helping with assessments of pollution prevention opportunities involving energy use and production. So we see a lot of interesting opportunities and potential there, and looking forward to learning more and helping move forward.
Great, thank you, Michael. And Scott?
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Brown with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions. We used to be known as AMEC Foster Wheeler, so you might recognize us by that name. We just changed it a couple of years ago. As Josh brought us onto the team, primarily to look at hazardous material and water conservation aspects of P2. We have a lot of experience doing P2 studies like this with the Navy and Marine Corps throughout the West. And this is my first time personally doing a P2 that is not military. And so it's been kind of exciting to apply what we've learned from that side over onto the non-military side. And yeah, we've been, it's been an exciting project, and we're really happy to be on the team.
Great, thank you, Scott. And then also Prosper Sustainably is, prior to working for Prosper Sustainably, I was the director of the San Ynez Chumash Environmental Office in California. And I had successfully received 2 different P2 grants there, kind of doing some similar type of activities that we're doing here, although we're kind of taking it to the next level in terms of training capacity building activities, or making it, more of a national project. And we work with tribes in the areas of environmental sustainability, energy, climate and resilience, and other areas as well. And so looking forward to getting to know all of you more, and hopefully hearing about some of the challenges that you're facing, and just sharing what we have going on, and hopefully bringing the benefits of this project and our planning process to you. All right, so we've covered introductions. Next, I'll kind of briefly go over the TribalP2Action project a little bit beyond what Shasta has already mentioned. And then I want to go through each of the webinars and virtual roundtables in this series that are going to occur from now through almost the end of September. And then really the bulk of this initial webinar is going to be the general P2 assessment and planning steps and process we want to walk you through, where future webinars are going to focus on specific media areas, as we'll discuss. And I'm going to attempt to leave a good healthy 10 minutes or so for questions at the end. I encourage everybody to use the questions and answers function in Zoom to submit your written questions throughout the webinar as you go, and then we will save time at the end to address and answer those questions. And then if for some reason your questions weren't answered, you're more than welcome to email me afterwards, and I'll be sure to provide my contact information. If it's not, I don't think it's in this webinar slide. So I'll follow up if you have questions, and likely probably follow up with a little survey too. Okay, so first thing I'd like to, we have a few polls throughout this. And another thing I also do want to mention is I'm going to try to make this a little bit of a workshop. So as we go through the P2 planning steps in particular, I'm hoping that either you can have a separate document where you're writing down the question and writing down your own answers, because it's meant to help you kind of think through your own planning process, or even better, if you can actually use the chat window to enter your answers there, because I think we will all benefit from hearing each other's responses to certain questions and considerations when doing P2 planning for tribal businesses that you may be working with or want to work with. But first of all, very brief kind of basic question. We're just trying to get a sense of where people are learning about this from, and I'll pop that open up. Oops, let's see, pull up the right one. Here we go. So I'm going to launch this poll right here and just give 30 seconds or so if you can just respond to that poll, and it gives us a sense of where people are learning about this from, so we can also leverage that to better share the word moving forward. All right, we have most responses, 54%. I'll just give a 30 seconds for that. And so it looks like, colleagues and email list are mostly, and then if you have an other response to something, if you want to share it in the chat box, that'd be helpful as well. To any of these questions, if you are willing to do that, and you can send it to the whole group, or you can just send it to me, and all this feedback is useful. So thank you. Okay. All right, so pollution prevention isn't really, I think, a common term. So want to step back and really talk about, first of all, what pollution prevention is. And as defined by the EPA through actually the Pollution Prevention Act, it's any practice that reduces, eliminates, or prevents pollution at its source. So, it's distinguishable from recycling or composting, which is not actually reducing the pollution. That's actually, turning a product into something else, which is beneficial and does, in a sense, reduce pollution. But we're really talking about trying to reduce pollution before things become waste products. And so, if we can reduce energy before it's used, we can reduce water before it's used, we can reduce waste before it's generated. I think, two other terms, at least that I equate to pollution prevention, are environmental sustainability or greening. So if you think about greening a tribal business or facility, I think we're really talking about the same thing here. The EPA has a pollution prevention program, as I mentioned. It was actually a Pollution Prevention Act that was passed by Congress that really is kind of the source of funding and legislation that's guiding all of this. And so I want to pull up that website for all of you to take a look at that, and where you can learn more information. This is more information on what pollution prevention is, and in the variety of resources the EPA is offering. But we talked about grants already. So this is a pollution prevention grant that funded this project. There are also source reduction assistance grant programs, and the EPA kind of rotates through different areas of emphasis on an ongoing basis. But there's a lot of different resources and tools, calculators on here, as well as case studies, which we will be contributing to as we complete this project as well. But also, I want to stop here and give Jessica a moment to share a little more about the pollution prevention program from first person.
Thanks, Josh. So I think it's on, if you go to the pollution prevention homepage, there's a P2 hierarchy, maybe not. I don't know where that is, but it's there it is. So if you can kind of expand that, Josh. And this is kind of gives you a visual of the actual definition of P2. So at the top, we want to reduce waste, make things energy efficient, water conservation. If we can't do that, then we reuse, then we recycle, then there's treatment, and lastly is disposal. So I always point to this because it's a great visual of the definition of P2. So there's definitely benefits when you implement P2 at your facilities. There's cost savings that can be had. You're going to operate more efficiently. The environment will be safer for everyone. There's also marketing advantages because there's consumers that are, green aspects and things. And then it just makes the community sustainable. After all, there's plenty of opportunities in P2, hazardous waste, water conservation. Josh named all of these things: green purchasing, energy efficiency, and it goes on. So I just encourage you to identify areas in your facility that you can implement P2, and there's plenty of resources on this site. And feel free to contact me. Josh will share my contact information with you for questions. The next grant solicitation will be 2022. So they're 2-year grants. And I think tribes, there's a match of 5%. Normally it's 50% for P2 grants. But I think that you can reduce that to 5% when you're a tribe. So I just encourage you for grants, and if you're looking for projects, you know, there's examples out there. Thanks, Josh. That's it for me.
Thank you, Jessica. And I think that that 5% match opportunity is if the tribe has a partnership performance grants where they have a combination of their GAP grant and other grants all kind of in one single assistance agreement, which I think tribes should be doing anyways because it makes it more administratively easy and tends to reduce match for various EPA grants. But I wish I had noticed this. I would have stolen that visual right there. I think that's an excellent way to kind of share pollution prevention and what it is and how it's, you know, really the thing we should be focusing on first. You know, in the energy space, we always talk about, you know, before you go and install solar, you know, you want to reduce your energy consumption. So energy efficiency, energy conservation come first. Typically are the most cost-effective ways to do things. And then, you know, adding new generation tends to be more costly. It's very beneficial, but, you know, reduce your consumption first and then bring in those extra resources as needed. Okay, so another poll. I'd like to hear from you, you know, what are your biggest P2 challenges? I'm going to launch the poll right now and, you know, look forward to your responses. And then, you know, if you select other or if there's other things that aren't listed here, I encourage you to share that in the comments. We definitely want to know what's holding you back in this area because we want to bring the resources to you to help you solve those challenges.
Josh, do you want me to use the screaming goat to get people's attention?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah.
Those of you who have had webinars with me before, you know that when it comes time for a poll or when we really want to get your attention, I have this screaming goat, and I can't see myself right now, so I don't know if you're seeing it. But here,
yeah.
This is what to listen for when you know you need to be really paying attention. Okay. There you go. I'm going to mute myself now. Bye.
Yeah, Angie's gotten to experience the screaming goat a lot more than I have in the Tribal Climate Health Project webinars, but I always get a kick out of that. Okay, so it's been a minute. We've received responses. It's actually, you know, pretty much across the board. You know, well, pretty even. Leadership or management buy-in, lack of funding, lack of expertise. Seem to be the primary responses. I know it's probably a combination. I think I only gave you a chance to, you know, your biggest challenge. Lack of time and staff is probably an issue, particularly right now with COVID. I know it is for myself during this period of time. But, you know, I think, you know, the leadership and buy-in in particular, I think Scott can attest to that. And they've really emphasized that, and they're working with the Navy facilities in making these projects successful. Okay, so then the poll. Thank you for your responses, and listen for the screaming goat, please, for your next opportunity to contribute. Okay, so the TribalP2Action project was originally named and kind of is still named the Intertribal Pollution Prevention Project. Shasta already mentioned it's funded by an EPA P2 grant, and Pala is administering it. And you know, Shasta is, I think, you know, she's doing more than she gives herself credit for. You know, she's, you know, overseeing it all. She's providing the connections we need, getting us access to information and data, providing feedback on the strategies we're developing, and you know, we are still in the process of doing all that. She'll continue to provide all that, you know, support and leadership for us, and also connecting us with the leaders at Pala. So we're focusing on Pala businesses, but we're also working with San Pasqual, one of their businesses, the Woods Valley Golf Club, and I'll share more about that in a moment. So when we're collaborating with the EPA, I appreciate that Jessica has been, you know, more proactive in being involved and providing us with resources and connections with others. So, you know, as I mentioned, Sustainably has taken the lead. We've subcontracted some of the work out to both Michael Burr and the Microgrid Institute and Burr Energy, and also to Wood and Scott and his team. And so that support's been tremendously helpful. Jessica has connected us with the California Green Business Network, who's provided us some resources to, you know, supplement this, providing checklists covering the same areas we're talking about, and even working on developing a tribal green business program, primarily focusing initially in California and hopefully beyond that. And Jessica's also connected us with other people at the EPA people that are managing the Energy Star portfolio manager to just bring these other resources and opportunities to us. And so it's been a great collaboration. And while we don't have continued funding for next year, we're actually hoping to come back maybe in a few years and continue this moving forward. And I think build upon what we're doing right here. I think we've kind of created a really good foundation for all this stuff, and we'll create lasting resources as well. So the project itself can kind of be broken up into two areas. There's kind of the local aspect of the project, the tribal specific, focusing on Pala and San Pasqual, and then there's the national aspect. So, the primary and first focus, which is really creating the foundation for everything else, is looking and working with Pala's businesses and the San Pasqual business. So they're listed here, the Pala Casino Spa and Resort. There's, I think, 5 or 6 agribusinesses, mostly avocado and citrus grows, but there's also a new vineyard that Pala recently started that's part of this project. The Fox Raceway, which is a motocross park. RV Resort, which is next to associated with a casino, gas station, mini mart on the same campus. The transfer station, which is operated by the environmental department. The transportation department serves pretty much all the Pala's businesses, as well as some of the government departments as well. The wastewater treatment plant serves primarily, it serves kind of a combination of both the businesses and residences at Pala. And then at San Pasqual, the Woods Valley Golf Club, which is actually all Palas are on the reservation, I think, except for 1 or 2 groves. And then on San Pasqual, the Woods Valley Golf Club is off the reservation. So we're, looking at, we're assessing these businesses, identifying P2 opportunities, seeing where they're at, and we're really seeking to develop a plan that's actionable for them to implement the highest priority, biggest benefit opportunities we find that are going to reduce pollution and save these businesses money. We are trying to also do employee training activities, particularly on the side of with Pala's businesses, and helping ensure that we are involving and creating awareness among the people working there at these businesses, because they're the ones who are going to know. We want them to know what's going on, but we want them to also be on the lookout for new opportunities that maybe we're not actually aware of. They're going to have the intimate knowledge of the operations, and we need their involvement and to make it successful. And then Pala also does have some green teams, Planet Pala, that we are leveraging, and that's a combination of various department heads and community members and leaders that are helping kind of provide, I think, better feedback, I think, cross-team collaboration and helping steer this project. We're most closely working with Shasta and her team and the business managers and facilities managers, and then the same thing on San Pasqual side, working with John and his team, and then working with the business and facility managers over at the Woods Valley Golf Club. So here, this webinar series is a part of the national P2 training capacity building program that we have going on, which is, we're branding as the TribalP2Action Project. We have a website. I encourage you to visit it, sign up for our email list, and then even go to the EPA's website, sign up for the email list too, to get more information and resources. We want to continue to make these things an opportunity. Even moving forward, we want to continue to share resources through this website. And so, as part of this, we have the webinar series. We're going to have various templates and case studies and stuff that are going to be available on this website. I'll pop over here real quick just so you can see what it looks like and know that it's real, and it was not live until about a month ago or so. The latest information will be here. It's kind of our blog page, and then trainings and other resources will continue to be fleshed out as we make more progress. And we encourage you to message us here, and then also sign up for our newsletter and just email list. Just in case you're not aware of where Pala and San Pasqual are, this is a national webinar series, and so you may not be located in California or in EPA Region 9. So Pala and San Pasqual are in San Diego County, northeast San Diego County, kind of close to LA, way closer to San Diego, which is here on the map, and a dry, arid area, high fire threat area, and fortunately no fires going on there right now, although the northern half of California is burning right now. But just so you know, kind of aware of where we are focusing our efforts for our planning efforts. And here's an overview of the webinar and roundtable series. There's going to be 5 webinars. This is the first of 5. Each webinar is going to be a week apart on Tuesday. This first one is more of a general in nature. The next 3 webinars, each one of them are going to be media specific. So the next one is going to focus on hazardous substances. And we're talking about this first webinar is going to be a general P2 assessment and planning process. The media specific ones are going to be more focused on that particular area. So next one on hazardous substances, we'll be talking about how do you actually do planning for hazardous substances. We'll share best management practices, case studies, challenges, and other opportunities and resources specific to hazardous substances. There, following that, we'll be focused on water, and then following that, we'll be focused on energy. In addition, we're going to be doing 3 roundtables where there's going to be probably a 15 to 20 minute presentation on a more narrow topic. And then really it's going to be, all of these are 90 minutes for those roundtables. After that initial 15, 20 minute presentation on that specific topic, the rest of it's just going to be discussion. So we're hoping that all of you will join us and just share what are your challenges? What are the best practices that you see are out there? What resources are you aware of? What resources are you looking for? So we'll facilitate this discussion and keep it moving, but we really want this to be an opportunity to share amongst ourselves and learn from each other. We're sharing the information and the expertise that we have, but this is an evolving field, and there's areas and opportunities and strategies that we have not been exposed to, and so we want to continue to learn, and we also want to hear from you and your challenges and help you share what you've learned with others as well. The first one's going to be focused on a very timely topic, so COVID-19 and hazardous substances as tribal businesses. I think a big emphasis on the use of chemicals for disinfecting and reopening your businesses and keeping them open. And so, I think that's going to be, a very fruitful discussion. The next webinar, the next roundtable on September 10th is going to be focused on strategies for saving water and money in the areas of landscaping. And so, a lot of opportunities there. And we're doing a lot of work with Pala and San Pasqual businesses in that particular respect. And then the final one is going to be focused on energy. In this case, our narrow topic is going to be energy storage, which is kind of a new, hot and emerging topic. Many of you may have heard the Tesla batteries. We're going to even go beyond that and talk about the non-lithium ion storage technologies. Michael and I have a lot of experience in particular in on this particular topic. The Wood team is going to be primarily leading the webinars and roundtables that are focused on hazardous substances and water, and then I will, with Michael's support, be leading them focused on energy, and then I also will be administering leading the last webinar that will focus on pollution prevention training and implementation. So just to clarify, this first webinar is more about the planning process. Implementation is obviously a critical step, and nothing's actually no pollution is going to get reduced, no money is going to be saved unless you actually implement the opportunities that you identify through your planning process. So we recognize that and we want to dedicate a webinar to that at the end as well. All webinars and events start at 10 a.m. and the webinars themselves are being recorded and will be published for later viewing. The roundtables may not be, because we want people to feel free to share challenges in a safe environment. So likely those are not going to be published unless it seems like there was nothing that anybody's concerned about there, that we have 100% consent on that. And then, you can visit our website if you haven't signed up for the other webinars as well. You have to sign up for each one individually. All right, so we're now going to dive into the P2 assessment and planning process. So the very first step is, what business or facility are you actually going to work on in doing this work? And we're focusing here on businesses, but the same concepts apply to government operations. They can apply to a home. I mean, really anything that has environmental impacts, you could be applying P2 measures to as well. But for this particular project, and the EPA in general for their P2 program focuses on reducing pollution and saving money with businesses. So I mentioned these businesses already, and so we've selected these target facilities as part of our initial even pre-planning process in applying for this grant opportunity. And in fact, we found that there was other businesses that were actually part of this list that got changed afterwards due to some challenges that we faced, and even some business changes that occurred from when we first applied. So, you want to, think through which ones are going to be the best opportunity. We are doing a lot here. You may be likely you're going to want to focus on one business at a time, have some success there, and then share that success with other businesses. It'll likely lead to greater success. So my question for you is, what businesses do you want to target for your P2 related assessment and planning efforts and ultimately implementation? Where are the opportunities that you see, either that you're working for or trying to work with within your community? And I encourage you to share some of those businesses in the Zoom webinar chat. You have to find that in the menu bar. It may be different for everybody, and I had to pull it up separately. But again, you can either pull up a notepad on the side, or if you want to share answers to some of these questions in your chat, I'll be great. Love to hear from you and just see what you all are working on. You can share it with others too, so they see what types of businesses you're considering. And then that may be an opportunity also for you to connect with other tribes, other people working, trying to address the same businesses. So as I mentioned, we are Woods Valley Golf Club is one of the businesses we're focusing on. Is the only business we're working with at San Pasqual, and this guy is way in the rough off the golf course over here. But this is an overview of the golf course that kind of wraps around this neighborhood. And one of the reasons we selected this business in particular was just because we are working on this project directly through. Let me close the window for the leaf blower going by right now. So, we are partnered directly with the San Pasqual Environmental Department on this grant opportunity, and it's just about relationships to and access to information and decision makers. And so, the San Pasqual has the Valley View Casino, but the government, the environmental department, and certain government departments. Well, as you know, with tribes, sometimes the actual business operations can be isolated or kind of more operating in silos from some of the government departments. And so that was, one of the reasons why we didn't seek to involve them. We just saw it be too much of a challenge to kind of get their buy-in, and we had enough on our plate already. And whereas the environmental department already had a good relationship and a lot of access to information at the Woods Valley Golf Club. And certainly it's, if you talk about just focusing on one business at a time, not trying to take on too much, well, casino operation has a lot going on there. And so, this was a good kind of first business for us to focus on over at San Pasqual. So, the next kind of key step you want to consider, and think of these steps as not necessarily entirely sequential. You want to, I think, come back and revisit them again and again. And this one in particular is one you need to consider throughout the entire process. I already talked about relationships in terms of even just selecting a business. So, establishing and maintaining those key relationships is critical. Communicating with people, getting their involvement, getting their buy-in. We saw already that one of the biggest challenges that some of the people face is just getting leadership or management buy-in. And if you don't have that, then that's, you're likely not going to be successful. And also, getting the buy-in and getting support of the people who actually, working on these, vertically, horizontally, for staff and others that are working on this, and even customers and other stakeholders as well. So you want to think through, who should you partner with, and what positions are going to be important to make the success. I think you're going to definitely want the business managers and executives. You're going to need that. That's going to be very critical. Operation may have separate facilities department or managers that are kind of responsible for buildings and grounds and facilities operations. You're certainly going to need their involvement. And, as I mentioned, the on-the-ground staff that are actually out there implementing this, you're going to need them to be involved to make the success, and you're going to need their knowledge, what the challenges are and what the challenges you're going to face in actually implementing some of these measures as well. So you can't do this in a bubble. You can't hire some consultants, have them come in and tell you what your strategies are. You really need to have kind of buy-in involvement with key people throughout, but you do want to have a core planning team. You don't want to make, you don't want to have everybody involved in every single decision along the way. You got to think about who's kind of critical to moving the project forward, moving the planning process forward, keep it all moving. Who are going to be your champions to actually get this information out there, communicate to the right people within the business, within the community that you're going to need to make this a success. How do you maintain a good mutually beneficial relationship? So you have to approach this where, primarily you want to be coming across that to the people you're trying to work with. If you're not the actual business yourself, you want to ensure you're coming to them with, we're seeking to help you save money. We're seeking to help you reduce the risks, the health risks to your employees and to your customers. We're seeking to help you reduce pollution so you can market yourself as a green business. So, when you do approach people and developing these relationships, ensure that you're communicating the benefits to them. You're only going to get their buy-in if they feel like it's going to be beneficial to them and what they're doing, what they're working on. Even the staff member, like how is it going to benefit them on a daily basis in doing their job, and make it easier for them and make them more successful. So as I mentioned, you want to involve these key stakeholders throughout, and I'll keep coming back to this over and over again. And if it's a particularly complex project and planning process, you may want to consider developing an outreach and engagement strategy ahead of time, just to ensure that you're communicating and engaging people at appropriate points throughout the process. Okay, next poll, Shasta. Can we have the screaming goat, please? Let me pull up the poll first. There we go.
Yeah, I had to unmute, so here we go.
Thank you. That's your cue, screaming goat. On to the poll. What is your role in the P2 planning process? And we're just trying to get a sense of who all is participating today and how to gear future content as well.
And speaking of which, I put in the chat asking people to let us know where you are, who you work for, maybe your role. Had a couple of responses. Cindy Smallwood from Hamul, and I don't know if it's Chanel or Channel Brown. I'm going to say Chanel from Campo. So once you've answered this poll, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves in the chat, it's just always great to know who people are and where they're coming from.
Thank you, Shasta, and thank you, Cindy, and I'm going to guess Chanel. Okay, so it looks like, mostly tribal government staff, but we do have government agency support, and then in other, and, again, if you share more about who you are and who you work with, then we may get a sense of what the other is. So, kind of a question for your own consideration and helping make this, an actionable webinar for yourself. Who should you involve in considering all the information that's provided? Who should you involve in your P2 planning? So if you've already kind of taken a moment to consider what business or businesses you want to work with, who do you need to involve in that planning? Who should be part of your core team? And, more broadly, who are kind of those key stakeholders that you're going to want and need to be involved in order to make your P2 planning and implementation a success? So I encourage you to either have that in a separate notepad and, or even better, share that information in the chat with others so they can learn from you as well. They may find that, you may bring up some people they didn't think of at their particular community that they want to be working with or should be considering working with. So this is a picture of the Pala Mission Indians Vineyard. So I think, I guess it was started in 2018. And, I visited this, I think, just last year. And so, with this particular business, it's the key person here is the groves manager, and he is managing all of Pala's agribusinesses. So the various, I think, 5 or 6 citrus and avocado groves, as well as the Pala Mission vineyards. And he's the key person we needed to be in contact with to share this information. And he'd be the person to share it with his staff as well. Certainly if we get into the employee training, we would like to ensure that this information gets to them. The agricultural workers are a little harder to reach than some other business employees, such as the Pala casino, where people come in every day and they punch in and punch out. They likely have an email address or have access to web resources, where with the vineyards and the agribusinesses, there isn't as much communication. They tend to just go to these particular to the sites themselves. That some may not have workstations, and they may not be regularly checking in that way. So in communicating people, you also consider, you can't just send an email to everybody. You have to consider, how am I actually going to reach these people as well, the people that we need to have involved and be aware and have their support and get information from. And that should be part of your outreach and engagement strategy, whether you develop a formal one or whether you just kind of think it through. I guess another thing here is there's the Groves manager. He's not the final decision maker. Ultimately, budget decisions or final decisions are going to go to Paul's executive committee. So that's more of kind of the hierarchy we certainly need to have for any recommendations we have. We're going to be submitting those to the Paul executive committee for all of these businesses, but they're a little kind of closer to this one than, let's say, the casino that has its own layer of executive leadership below the executive committee. All right, so the next key step we want to go over is determining the goals, objectives, scope, media areas, and metrics that you want to be part of this planning process. And this is really where you really need to involve the key stakeholders we talked about, the leadership, the facilities managers, key staff, and other stakeholders. What the goals from an overall standpoint, what are your long-term goals for this project, for this process, for the business? What are kind of the key milestone objectives you want to reach in achieving those particular goals? It doesn't have to be a very formal process, but you're going to need to be able to communicate and have these goals in your plan itself. And you want your goals and objectives to continue to guide you. And you also do want to relook at them. So making sure you're periodically coming back and re-examining the goals and objectives for the project and adjusting those as needed as circumstances change. Like one, major thing that's impacted all of us and I think impacted our goals and objectives recently has been COVID. I mean, we were kind of really getting the heart of this project just kind of early last spring when COVID struck, and we had to pivot pretty dramatically in terms of the level of site visits, information gathering, even the actual businesses themselves, their operations changed. Most, if not all, businesses we're talking about had to shut down for at least temporarily, and their energy, their water consumption, their hazardous substances production all went down to a certain degree. And so, you need to consider these and, what are the impacts moving forward as well. You don't want to continue to plan for operations as is if post-COVID, the operations are going to look different than they did pre-COVID. Another consideration is the scope too. How do you want to focus on the whole business? Do you want to do like we do with Paula and look at a portfolio of businesses, or with San Pasqual, we just have that single business within the business itself? Do you want to focus on just certain aspects of the business, certain operations? Is the business have a lot going on? Are there kind of low-hanging fruit areas within that scope? What media areas do you want to focus on? This particular project is focused on hazardous substances, energy, and water, reducing pollution sources and costs associated with those three primary areas. But there's other areas as well, and we'll have a questionnaire, a polling in a moment that will share a bit more of some other areas you may want to consider. And then what are the metrics? What are your performance metrics in those areas? How are you going to measure success? What's the data you need to track, qualitative and quantitative, in order to be able to evaluate whether or not you're actually meeting your goals and objectives and achieving what you want to achieve in terms of performance? And so, I mentioned here, kind of some of those metrics might be cost savings, reducing pollution, protecting human health. And then, those are all very high level. Are you talking about reducing cost savings on an annual basis, on a 5-year, 10-year period? Reducing pollution, there's a variety of areas. Even just focusing on air, there's so many different toxins you could be focused on reducing pollution for, and protecting human health. Again, there's so many different exposures there that you may, they're going to be individual metrics that you may want to track and measure. I'll pull up a poll right now, the last and final poll, just to Shasta and Screaming Goat, please. I did not hear the Screaming Goat. People are not going to know they need to have a poll right now. Is Screaming Goat getting laryngitis?
And can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you just scream for us?
Well, I could, but I don't know if I'd be able to stop. All right. Now did you hear it?
There we go. There we go. Yes, yes. Okay. Now, a lot of action now. I think, yeah, so, we're covering the areas we talked about before, energy conservation, energy and water, and then we have hazardous waste management. I would say you could probably distinguish that from just hazardous substances reduction, which I guess should have been on here. Looks like there's, fairly broad interest across the board, but a real, most of the interest is in the area of energy conservation, and that's, for me, that's my personal area of interest and passion. I feel like that's where there's a lot of impacts going on. People are getting outages right now, and I just think that's where most of your costs are. I think energy and water are kind of, in my opinion, two areas where you're probably going to yield the biggest cost savings and potentially environmental benefits. But a lot of, the hazardous substances are a hot topic right now with COVID and disinfecting. And I think that's probably also where a lot of the direct human health impacts are occurring to the people at these facilities. All right, so thank you all for the responses. This is the Pala Casino Spa and Resort, and this was an area where, scoping was pretty critical here. There's a lot going on here. There's a hotel, there's a big gaming floor, they have a spa, you see the pool, there's parking garages, there's lots of employees, lots of, there's restaurants, there's, we could have spent this entire project just focusing here. And also another consideration too is the facilities manager there is incredibly busy. So we decided to, we're going to try to focus on the other businesses a bit more broadly. And we're, kind of trying to get an overall sense of things at the casino, which we, somewhat have already, and then kind of focus on some critical high leverage areas to just ensure that we are, spending our resources and efforts in where we're going to have the biggest actual impact and where it's going to be most valuable to the casino staff, the leadership, and the tribal community. So once you've done your scoping, then you're going to begin probably along the same time. All these steps can be simultaneously to a certain degree, gathering your information and data for those particular businesses, for those particular aspects of the business, for those media areas. And you need to decide what information and data you want to gather. We'll be getting into more of the details in the areas of energy, water, and hazardous substances in those webinars about specific information and data we were seeking there. But we're, from energy data, water data, associated pollution-related data, lists of hazardous substances, kind of just at a kind of high level, the types of information we're looking for, and we'll give more information. And then how are you going to gather the data? I think it's important to do a pre-assessment. You don't want to start kind of formulating strategies or get too focused and narrow before you get a sense of what information and data is available, what is actually going on there at that particular business or facility. So, the pre-assessment process can take a little bit of time to kind of wrap your head around the business, talk to people that I think should, to the extent possible, involve site walks, seeing things in person. If you're not actually at the business yourself doing this work, there will likely be a series of information and data requests that can be done as part of those kind of site walks and meetings, but also could be submitted by email, by paper. You can provide your own checklists or use the checklists of others, including the Green Business Network checklists as well. So, there's a lot of different ways you can gather this information, and you need to find out what's going to work best for that particular business that you work for or with on these particular efforts and opportunities. And then how are you going to request and gather it? Will it be by email? Will it be by person? I think it's very important to also track your requests. You know, we have a lot of businesses we're working with right now. This project's been going on for a few years, and you know, there's been various phases that have occurred. And we want to make sure that we're not coming back and we're tracking what we've requested, and we're not coming back and asking for the same thing twice. We know who has what, and you know, because if you're asking for the same information over and over again, you're going to frustrate the people you're working with, those facilities managers, those that have the data. So you want to be also try to best decide and figure out, you know, how much data to request. I've had the experience with Shasta, with the facilities director at the casino, of asking too much. And, you know, you want to ensure that you're being respectful toward other people, their time, their availability, and, you know, their resources that they have to be able to provide you that data. So, you know, you may have a giant list, and, you know, a strategy might be to kind of drip feed those requests, you know, kind of prioritize and ask one thing at a time, or just a few things at a time, and really, you know, prioritize your own request itself. Like, go through that and be like, okay, well, I have a list of 20 things here. What are really the top 5 most critical pieces of information I need? Start with that and go from there, because you may find that that's all you need, or you may find the other stuff comes out of it. And sometimes too, you need to start asking for information and getting a sense of what they actually have and what's going on there, to understand what might actually be available and what may not be available. You don't want to have this long laundry list of things that are not actually relevant. So walking through your, like, kind of conversationally, what type of data you're asking for in a meeting, as opposed to sending a list, can be a good also initial step as well. Getting out there and doing a site walk and a meeting and seeing what is there and what is not can help you also understand and limit your data requests to what you will understand is or is not available. Simultaneously with this process, I think it's a good time to begin developing your database for ongoing tracking of your data and metrics. You want to be able to measure and show and evaluate the performance of the pollution prevention measures that you're actually implementing, to show that they are actually saving you money, that they are reducing pollution, that they are protecting human health, and whatever kind of minute areas that you're looking to track them in, to the extent that you can. And so, you know, as you gather this data, think about putting it into a database, into an Excel spreadsheet, or, you know, however else you find best to track it for yourself, in a way that you can then gather that same data in a year, so you can compare it on an ongoing basis, and also think through what's that process going to be in terms of actually gathering and requesting that data on a periodic basis, whether it's annually or quarterly or semi-annually, whatever it may be. So I have some resources I've listed here that can help you in your information gathering, your information gathering process. I developed kind of an initial template as part of the pre-assessment process that I'm going to show you in a moment. I mentioned the Green Business Network checklists. We're working with the California Green Business Network, but most states have a Green Business Network that will likely have these checklists. And even if your state doesn't, or your area doesn't have one serving you, you can still get checklists from other areas for businesses that are relevant to yours and get good ideas. Energy Star Portfolio Manager can help kind of help you enter and gather data. It's not just for energy, it tracks water, it tracks waste. It's become more of a dynamic tool, and perhaps needs some rebranding and renaming. I think, Jessica, you should pass that along, just so people don't think it is just for energy. And I've seen some of the back end stuff that's been going on there for that as a tool. And what's great with the energy, for energy in particular, is you can link it directly with your energy accounts, so it can automatically import your data, so you don't even have to request it on an ongoing basis. So, you know, I encourage you also, if you have others that you're aware of, to share those in the chat box, and we'll begin to flesh out a larger list of resources as we develop the website and project a bit further. So quickly, let me pull up some of the resources we developed. Oh, the wrong one. That's for later. So this template is not on the website yet, but I will make it available on the website. So this may be, you know, kind of a good initial, almost pre-assessment type template where you can gather some basic information, just get a a general sense of what's going on at the property. This template is geared toward energy, water, and hazardous substances. So there are general questions, and then there's energy, water, and hazardous substances specific questions. As I mentioned, they're kind of, fairly high level and basic, but they're a good primer to get the conversation going, give you a sense of what's going on there. It's really through this information gathering process that you're going to begin to identify the opportunities that are actually out there and are available. And if you use a spreadsheet like this, and you can kind of enter the responses along the way, you can keep track of this information, and then you can also print it out and add information in as well. So, I have a longer, one for each of the businesses we're working with. And, I initially, after the first kind of site visit, I entered it, I typed it in. The second site visit, I just printed that out and wrote on there. So, you kind of just do what works best for you. This is the Fox Raceway over at Pala, and with Fox Raceway, we did a pre-assessment. We got out there for, I got out there for two kind of initial site visits to using that checklist and that questionnaire to gather this information. So I kind of gathered it at a first pass, took it back, processed it, came up with additional questions, and then went back out there. So I did have additional questions beyond what was on that sheet, or I kind of listed them within the sheet actually. So I was prepared for the next site visit to go a bit deeper. And then Scott and his team have been out there as well, looking at this site and the other sites too. And then we working with Shasta and the environmental department, I've submitted some email requests for additional information as needed, which I then take back and put in that profile. So it's best to try to keep this information as centralized as possible, so you're not asking the same information over and over again. When we brought Wood on board for their work here, I shared this information with them, so they could review it ahead of time and go deeper, as opposed to kind of going out there and asking the same questions again that I had already asked. Okay, the next step is identifying the pollution prevention opportunities in your target areas. And I put and beyond because I think you want to be on the lookout for opportunities beyond what you're focused on. So one example is that in, with water, with San Pasqual, we found that they have some opportunities to kind of do some procurement through the water authority, through a water allocation that could save them money. And that's not going to necessarily reduce pollution at all because it's actually the same water, but it's going to save them money. And this project was kind of stimulated that particular investigation, that particular effort, and is feeding them data to support that, as well as to support other water-related opportunities. And when you're working with the tribal business, when you're working with the business managers, it's important to ensure that you're focusing on the areas that are important to them. That's what's going to keep them coming back to you and see you as a valuable resource and want to work with you. So, you don't want to impose your ideas and your opportunities upon them too rigidly, really at all. You want to go to them and see what's useful and valuable for them. And, even though you may see something as being a really huge area, if it's something that they're just really not interested in and don't want to go into, then you really have to be willing to focus on what is important to them, if you can't communicate the benefits in a way that they see it. So, there's kind of different ways you can go about identifying these opportunities. You can hire consultants and other experts, or use nonprofits and government agencies as well. They have experts that are willing to help universities. Sometimes there may be actually free expertise out there if you can develop those relationships to help you identify the opportunities in those areas. A variety of online tools. So you can go to the EPA's P2 website. We're going to have tools on our website. I talked about the Green Business Network checklists. There's other checklists you can use as well. Another good area is to just look for other assessments and plans, green business plans, sustainability plans, energy, water conservation plans for other businesses and organizations that are similar to yours or have some overlapping operations. And you know, that's going to be a source for you of identifying opportunities that can benefit the businesses you're working with. And so I encourage you to kind of think through how you can identify P2 opportunities and strategies for your business. And if you have any particular ideas you want to share with everybody participating, please share those in the chat box. And we'll get into some, you know, we'll include more of these resources on our website and get into some more specific ones that are focused on energy, water, and hazmat when we get to those topics. So this is a picture at the Pala Transportation Department, and in this case, it's just an example of them, you know, actually implementing best management practices where they have containment, and you know they have a pretty, you know, good system here for containing spills and things like that, which is, you know, critical. I mean, you go to a lot of places and you see they have kind of primary and secondary containment here for these operations. And so one thing to keep in mind too is if you're doing a portfolio of businesses, particularly if they're the same types of businesses, if they have overlapping operations, well, you may go to one business and see something they're doing really well, and you know, let's say, you know, for these primary containment catch basins underneath these fluids right here, we could go look at one of the other Pala businesses or San Pasqual businesses that are also storing chemicals in drums like this, and just ask the transportation department director, you know, where are you getting these? How much do they cost? Have they worked well or not? And so just finding best management practices within the businesses you already work with, or just reaching out to those other businesses as well and asking what works well for them. So next, you'll want to prioritize and select strategies and opportunities for further analysis. And I think it's important to consider how you want to rank and you know, what criteria you want to use to rank the opportunities you've identified, and you want to do that with the key stakeholders. So certainly the leadership, certainly facilities manager and other key stakeholders, they need to be involved in identifying the criteria and then applying the criteria. So, you know, is cost savings the #1 criteria? Or, you know, are you dealing with health impacts? Is a certain type of health impact, the health impact to the employees, to the customers, you know, loss of time, efficiency? Are there specific pollution areas that you want to focus on more than others? Is water really the biggest area you want to focus on? So, you know, the P2 opportunities that are going to have the biggest water impact are going to be your priority. Do you have limited groundwater resources that you're drawing from? And this is going to be a little bit of an iterative process. You know, I would say start off with kind of an initial list and talk it through and start to apply it, and then come back to the criteria and reconsider and rework the criteria as needed to really prioritize and select which ones you want to then dive deeper into. What we're doing with in both the energy, water, and hazardous substances spaces and with the wood team is, you know, we're kind of looking at all the opportunities, kind of developing a bulleted list of the opportunities with some basic information around each, running through that list together and kind of talking through where are going to be the best opportunities to really have the most impact. And we have limited resources and limited funding and time to go deeper. So we need to prioritize which ones really we're going to be able to do that further analysis for. So, you know, kind of a question I want to leave you with that you can, you know, write separately on a notepad or share in your comments, or what criteria do you think are going to be most important for the businesses that you're working with in terms of prioritizing which P2 opportunities you're going to want to analyze further and potentially implement? So this is, you know, from one of the businesses where they're storing various chemicals, landscaping chemicals, and, you know, one opportunity, you know, this is kind of just an example of could be alternative chemicals to use that are going to have potentially be more cost effective and more eco-friendly as well, or have less of a health impact as well. So, you know, an example of a best management practice or strategy you may want to consider if you have landscaping operations as part of whatever business you're working with. The next step is conducting the advanced analysis for the priority strategies, opportunities that you selected for to proceed with. And one thing to keep in mind is really the goal here is to make the decision-making, you want to inform the decision-making. You want to make this an easy decision for decision makers, and try not to go into it with a preconceived notion. I think, you know, you want to be informed by the data yourself. One example is at San Pasqual, Woods Valley, and Scott and his team are going to go into more depth on this, but there's a few different opportunities we're looking at there in depth. One is whether or not to expand a reclaimed water reservoir, whether the tribe should make the investment in expanding that so that the water district can provide them more reclaimed water to use at the golf club. And, you know, I feel like there's a good opportunity there, and it's a good chance it's going to lead to some cost savings to be a worthwhile investment, but I don't know. And I definitely want to ensure that we run the analysis and review it thoroughly, that we can show how much water is being saved and how much money is being saved, and what are the other impacts too. You know, running your cost-benefit analysis, one thing that was raised that, you know, more recently that I wasn't aware of initially is the quality of water from the reclaimed, the quality of reclaimed water is lower than the groundwater and the potable water. So that does have an impact on, you know, the actual nutrients that the golf club is getting in throughout its landscaped areas. So, you know, that's kind of a critical thing too, that you may not be able to quantify as well, but you want to do your best to kind of do this analysis, have the backup information, summarize it, and have the other considerations that people can kind of weigh in terms of making a decision. And so, you know, we're going to have templates and examples and stuff that we'll be sharing through this webinar series and through the website, that you can see examples of what this analysis can or should look like, you know, could look like for you and the businesses you're working with. So, you know, this is the Pala RV Resort. And I put this picture here because, you know, this is an example of you really want to, you know, make these decisions easier, relaxing even, you know, make it where they can sit back in the lawn chair next to the pool and, you know, make a simple decision because they have all the information. You've done the due diligence on this, you know, you're addressing their concerns and questions. You're identifying their concerns and questions up front and ensuring that they're being addressed. And if you involve them throughout the process, then it's going to be, you're likely going to be more likely to have them get their support and actually implementing something that does look like it does make sense. If you don't get their involvement and they're not involved throughout, they're likely going to be resistant, even if it does look good on paper. You know, no buy-in, I mean, then it's just not going to work. So then, you know, presenting the analysis results and initial plans to the key stakeholders, and I guess, you know, it was kind of, this is that next natural step. So you've done the advanced planning, you've kind of processed the information, made it in the digestible format, and then you're actually presenting those findings to those stakeholders, reapplying that criteria. So now that you have more information, you want to step back, apply that criteria again, because, you know, now you may know more about what the costs, the actual more detailed exact costs are going to be on an investment. What are the actual benefits and challenges beyond what you kind of initially gathered in your pre-assessment phase, reprioritizing those as needed, and then hopefully getting buy-in and commitment to proceed forward with one or more of your P2 strategies. So, you know, really, this is the Pala Groves. You want to share the fruits of your labor and hopefully get that commitment to move forward and save money and make things more environmentally friendly. Part of this process should be developing a P2 assessment report. You want to document your findings, make sure that they're available in a way that you can share it with others and that it's available too for the future. People can come back to this information and not reinvent the wheel as well. You know, this is the Pala transfer station, and, you know, you got to do the dirty work. Got to sit down and make sure you're documenting everything in a cogent manner that people can understand, digest, and share with others. And, you know, you can rely upon your own staff, consultants, and others as needed to help you in developing these plans. But ultimately, I think you want to get to the point where you have an action plan that is something you can move forward with. And, you know, to me, an action plan means something that has very clear activities that flow down from the goals and objectives that you've identified, that there are roles and responsibilities associated with each of those activities. You have a timeline associated with each activity, so you know when you've worked with those who are going to be implementing it. You've worked together on developing a reasonable timeline. You can keep track of progress and come back. Things can change, and they can be adjusted along the way, but you at least can monitor and track, work together. You know which the outputs and deliverables are going to be. You also are associating those activities with performance metrics, so it ties back to your goals and objectives and the performance measures you're trying to actually achieve and beyond that. So this is where the rubber meets the road. I like living actionable plans. If any of you have seen any of my past work on doing EPA tribal environmental plans or doing integrated waste management plans, you'll see that I'm very big into action plans. I like using spreadsheets. You don't have to use a spreadsheet, but I think it's, you want to have something distilled down to, I think, in a table format or something that you can kind of more easily follow these activities and change them along the way. I don't think it's good to have a static plan because, a month or two down the road, your plan is already out of date. I think it's good to have a plan that you can update at least annually and use to monitor how well you're achieving your goals. So let me show you an example, just a template that I will share as well of an action plan kind of template it can look like, and you can kind of have the same thing be in a Word document as well. And, having your long-term goals, making sure you're keeping track of those. You may want to have your criteria as well. And then, your high-level kind of milestone objectives, and then subtasks and subtasks going to be your activities that are connected to those as well. Having time frames, you can categorize them, and really all the things I already mentioned, having be a part of this responsibilities. And you can customize this as needed. You don't have to fill this entire thing out, but just to show you, what you can be tracking to a certain degree. I think more than anything else, you need to track your activities, your performance metrics, timeframes, and responsibilities. Your goal, your outputs and deliverables are important too. So, what's the due date? Who's responsible? What are the outputs and deliverables, and how you're going to track actual performance? And if you track just those and you look at that on an annual basis and you update it on an annual basis, then you're likely going to continue making progress and continue to prioritize what is the actual next best opportunity available to us as well. So adding new activities, adding new objectives, adding new strategies is something that I think you can and should be doing at least annually, so that you're continuing to stay focused on what is most important, and even reevaluating your goals and objectives too should be part of that process. Before we wrap up and go to questions, I just want to share this kind of reminder overview of where we're going from here. So the next 3 webinars are going to be the media specific ones, starting with hazardous substances, and then next week on Thursday is going to be the first roundtable, which is going to focus on COVID and hazardous substances at tribal businesses. And then we'll be doing this series through September 22nd. And if you have not already signed up, I encourage you to do so. And please help us spread the word. We didn't really kind of get into sharing this until about a week before this webinar series began. So, we're going to go back and try to share the recording of this and these slides with others and try to continue to get this information out there. And, so please ask that people sign up for future webinars and just share this webinar and webinar recording with others so, we can help them benefit their businesses as well. And, I think these topics too, while we're focusing on tribal businesses, these topics apply to other businesses and other operations, government operations, nonprofit operations. So these are kind of be useful in many other areas and other businesses and areas. Okay, so I've left almost 15 minutes for questions. That's not something I'm very good at doing. I am going to check back and see if we have any questions so far. If you want, you can also raise your hand and I can unmute you if you want to have a conversation. Shasta, can you do the screaming goat so people know that the Q&A is open and they can raise their hand and enter them in?
Did you hear it?
Just the very end of it. It was kind of weak.
I'm not sure where the microphone is. Actually, I got a new computer, so let me just try it right from here.
There we go. That's it. That was it.
Well, and I could always pull the professor bit and start calling out the people online who I already know personally, but
that's up to you. I don't see any questions so far, and if we, it's okay. And you're welcome to email me jsimmons@prospersustainably.com. What we'll do is we'll send a follow-up email afterwards with people's contact information, and so you can reach out with additional questions. And this one was more a presentation. We are looking forward to kind of having more active engagement, particularly in the roundtables, when we get into some specific and timely topics then as well. And then, feel free to share with us too, like what other resources do you think would you want to see us share through the TribalP2Action platform and website? What do you want to see in the future beyond what we're already planning to share with you? And that will be useful information for us and for the EPA as well.
And let's also remember that this is an ongoing conversation, but this was a very broad overview at the beginning, and then a lot of detail, as we went through it. And it is recorded, and it's going to be posted on the TribalP2Action website, and so you can review it. And that's also something to let people know. If you will help us out by sharing this with others who may not have heard about it yet, they can always catch up by reviewing the recording via the website.
Thank you, Shasta. All right, well, I'm not seeing any questions except for Cindy's letting us know she's got to go.
Thanks, Cindy. Bye.
I appreciate everybody participating today and taking your valuable time to join us and learn, and hopefully we're providing very valuable information for you and saving money and reducing pollution at your businesses. Thank you to the Pala Band and Shasta and the EPA and and everybody from Microgrid Institute and Wood for joining us and participating, contributing. So I'm excited we finally kicked this off, and it's going to be a great series. And I'm also really excited about getting these resources up on our website, including the templates and guides, so that people can begin implementing these same measures and planning processes at their businesses. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Looks forward to the next webinar. Bye.
Bye.